Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. It's Sam here with another little video. A little bit different today. I thought I would take you through a little bit of a visit that I had recently to a beautiful manor house, sort of stately place called Samlesbury Hall, which is in Lancashire. I'm only going to take you around for a couple of minutes just so you're not bored to tears. But there's a little bit of a link to how we get inspired, in our crafts and things that we make, how we get inspired by things that we see and the history that we have. I know that here in the UK we're very rich in Elizabethan history, which is one of my favourite periods of history, and Samlesbury Hall actually has been around since 1325, would you believe, with a huge and very rich history. So when we were having a look around, there are lots and lots of sort of historical motifs, and the fleur-de-lis is one of those. So I'm going to take you a little bit around Samlesbury Hall, just a little bit of a quick vlog. If you're not interested, obviously I'll leave timestamps down in the description just for when I start the tutorial for these little pretties. All right, so let me take you round and I'll come back to you when we've had a wander around in the sunshine. So I'll see you in a few. I think there's something really magical about stepping into a place that's been around for hundreds of years. Recently I visited a nearby manor house, Samlesbury Hall, beautiful in the heart of Lancashire, a place so old it kind of makes you feel really quite small and very modern. As we wandered through the gardens and the exterior of the hall and stood in the shadow of centuries old buildings, I felt a wonderful stillness, like you can almost hear the echoes of past lives and possibly the distant panic of someone's ruffled trousers as they run late for court. Jokes aside though, I find places like this incredibly grounding. It reminds me how much beauty there is in literally just slowing down and noticing things. The window panes, for example, or all the motifs like the fleur-de-lis, and just taking a step back and just looking at things, noticing things. Honestly, we live in a world that moves a little bit too fast for my liking, and sometimes it feels like a non-stop to-do list. It's good for our mental health just to unplug and just wander around, just be inspired by things, let our brains rest a little bit and soak in some details. That's what today's video is about, actually, taking inspiration from the past. Elizabethan particularly, one of my favourite eras, lace collars, textures, drama everywhere. Honestly, turning it into something small and joyful that you can actually wear. So today we're making earrings that look like they might even have belonged to a lady of the court, or at least someone who owns a very fancy tea set. Because isn't it true that when we make things, when we create, we connect with other people, we connect to ourselves, we connect to the past, the present moment that we're in. So let's dive in and let's take a little sparkle from the Elizabethans and turn it into something beautiful. So what did you think? Isn't it a beautiful place? It's one of my favourite places to visit, and so inspiring, which obviously did lead me to be inspired to make these fleur-de-lis earrings. This is my little take on them. I know lots and lots of wire artists have done these before, but this is just how I've made mine. I've made these sort of equal. I think a lot of designers make them smaller at the bottom, but I just sat down with some wire and I came up with these. So let's go through a list of materials, shall we? And obviously you can use these for pendants as well if you really wanted to. Let's go through a list of materials, really simple. So you're going to need some 1mm bare copper wire, or indeed silver plated or whatever wire you like. Just be on the safe side. I will be doing some hammering, so just use a wire that you're happy to do a bit of hammering on. You're going to need some 26 gauge 0.4 bare copper wire I'm using here, just to do the little wrap section in the centre. You're going to need, I'm using my 6-step bell making plier. Mine is 2 to 9 increments, and obviously the design that I'm making today will be using some elements of this, but I'm also using my round nose, which I've marked for the excuse me, for the little spirally parts here. All right, so that's that. And then you're just going to need your other usual tools, cutters, and your favourite chain nose pliers. What else? You're just going to need a ruler, just so you can measure out your lengths of wire, and a couple of beads. Now the Elizabethans loved to use pearls, didn't they? So I'm using pearls to embellish and dangle a little bit of a dangly thing there off the bottom of my little earring. I'm using 6mm pearls. These are Austrian brand, very famous Austrian brand, which I love. And also you're going to need a hammer and a block. Really, really, really affordable little hammer and block there. Doesn't have to be anything too expensive. And I think that is it. If I remember anything else as we're going along, I will just tell you about it at the time. So let's go and make these beautiful, historically inspired fleur-de-lis earrings. Aren't they gorgeous? All right, so I'll see you in a few. Righty-ho, let's get going. So like I said, to make these, you're going to need to make the components at the same time. So I've made these here. So I'm going to be making the second pair of components, of little units here, so we can measure against, so that they're exactly the same. Okay, so all you're going to need to do is to cut off 2 pieces of wire per earring. So you're going to need 2 lots of 5-inch and 2 lots of 4-inch, give or take, because you're going to be snipping a little bit off, but that's fine, around about that. So 4-inch and 5-inch. So let's take our 4 inches and we'll make this little small bit at the bottom, which is this part here. Okay, so I'm going to come in with my plier, my 6-step bell making plier, and we're going to make this little loop at the bottom. So hold the wire equidistant like so. And you're going to want to make a little sort of teardrop shape, about so big. So you come in, and this is why we do 2 at the same time, so that we can make sure that they are exactly the same, pretty much exactly the same. So we've got our little teardrop shape here, like so. That's lovely. All right, so in order to make these little spiral parts now, just going to take our wire and measure where the wires cross. Just measure about 1 inch along. So we could probably get away with a little less than 4 inches, but I like to have just a little bit more than I need. Measure and cut 1 inch along. Get rid of that. Okay, so let's concentrate on this one here. So this is what we have. All right, so if you see, pop one on top of the other. Now then, I've measured here, marked, should I say, on my plier, so that I want all of these little spirally type shapes to be the same. So pop your wire in your plier there where the mark is, and just start to make, with a sort of a rolling motion with your wrist. There we go. There is chance a little later on to faff around with these shapes, so don't worry too much if they're not exact at this point. So you just want to, with a rolling sort of motion, make a sort of spiral shape like so. Like so. And then just make sure that they are pretty even, and if they're not, don't worry about it. that's not too bad, is it? Yeah, they're pretty much the same. So just close those little sections up there. Again, you know, you can alter these as you're going along. Yeah, okay, so make sure they are pretty much the same shape and size, which they kind of are. Again, these are organic, so it doesn't matter hugely, but around about, you know. All right, so let's make 2 of these. So you're going to need to come in and take your wire. This is about 5 inches long. Move these out of the way and just bend it in 2, like so. And then just squeeze. We're trying to find the center, like so. So just come in with my plier. Where are my wider pliers? There they are. We really want to be very carefully squeezing this down like so. We want to make this bottom part touch. So the 2 wires need to be touching like so at the end. Can you see that? Good. I'll come in a little closer during the editing session. Then what you do is pull these apart, because we're trying to make this shape here. So pull these apart equally if you can, like so. And then we come in with the 5th step on my plier. Pull them a little bit further, like so. And then make this shape here. So we want to keep going round like so, and just use your mandrels as a guide like that. Lovely. So it resembles a sort of like a leaf shape, I guess. Yep, that's about right, isn't it? That's about correct. Can you see? So same thing again, we want to measure about 1 inch. You know what, I'm going to say 3 inches and 4 inches in these lengths initially. So I'll put all the measurements, the proper measurements, in the description box, because sometimes I think I need a bit more than I do. You know, work in progress, that's what I am. A work in progress. There we go. So let's get rid of that and that. All right, so the same thing applies. What we want to do is to make these into that kind of shape. So again, I'm coming in with my marked plier. And with a nice rolly motion of the wrist, we want to be making that kind of shape. And then pop it back on, you know. Doesn't have to be hugely exact. But if it's kind of the same, then that's good, isn't it? And then the same with the other side. Like so. And then make a sort of an open-ish spiral, if you will. There we go. Good. Let's have a look. They are pretty much the same. Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. So just lay one top of the other. There is room for messing about and faffing about with these in a second when we put them together. Right, so the next thing that we want to do is give these a little bit of a hammer. Now I'm going to bring my hammer in just to show you which parts I hammer. So let's get the little cloth. Righty-ho. So I'm going to do most of this off camera, but I will just show you what I'm hammering. So to start with, obviously I have hammered all of this, but I do the majority of the hammering on these parts after I've wrapped it all up, if that makes sense. Yeah, so hammer the point first. So where's my little hammer? Hammer this bit. There we go. So you've got a little bit of flattening like so, and then you just do that with this one, and then on these little ones here, just literally the bottom of the loop. Like so. All right, so if it spreads apart a little bit, just use your fingers, bring it back. So you do that with all 4 pieces, all right, and we'll meet back when you've done that. And we're back, so hopefully you have now done this, and this is the fun part. This is where we try and fit them together. There might be a little bit of manipulation going on here. You might have to, you know, just sort of fiddle around and faff about a little bit, but that's fine. What we have to do is, you'll notice that this is the top, this is the bottom. All right, so if you've done it correctly, you should have the top wire coming to the left. Obviously, this is if you're right-handed, and the bottom wire coming over the top to the right. Can you see that? So this top wire coming to the left, this bottom piece here, the top wire, goes to the right. So what you do is you just twist slightly the pieces like so, and they should fit together nicely. If they don't, it's fine. Just sort of have a little bit of a fiddle, pull one down, pull one up, that kind of thing. But they should fit together pretty well. You can mess about with these a little bit, like so, but they should fit together like so. Can you see that? And then if you need to just manipulate the wires slightly just to accommodate, that's absolutely fine. That's what we're looking for. Let's just bring that down slightly. Can you see what we're looking for here? So do that with both pairs. Can you see that? So let's have a look at the other one. Yeah, not far. Just manipulate slightly, just so everything fits into place. Like so. You see that? All right, so let's get rid of that one because we don't need both. So fit your 2 pieces together like so. The next thing we want to do is to attach some 0.4 26 gauge in the middle and wrap to keep them together like we've done here. Okay, so get a length of wire. Can't tell you exactly how much because, you know, that's up to you if you want to wrap it quite thickly like I've done, or if you want to wrap it thinly, it's up to you. I'm going to suggest, I don't know, a few inches maybe. What's that? Let's have a look, just for the sake of argument. So about 10 inches, 25 centimetres. You don't have to use the whole lot, so you'll know when you get going. So you pick up your 2 pieces, which obviously are going to be in the wind at this stage. Don't worry about it. Pop your wire over the top like so, just to anchor in between these 2 pieces here. You see? Just to anchor that on, and then just to hold that out of the way. Okay, so what we want to do now, just going to bend that one out of the way a little, is just to wrap. So wrap, wrap, down, and then back over, as many as you like really. So can you see how that's pretty stable now, isn't it? Yeah, so I'm going to do another couple of wraps back downwards. Yeah, I think that looks about right. All right, so you know, you don't need a huge amount. Got a little bit extra there, but it doesn't matter, I can use that again. Just snip, snippety snip, snippety snip. There we go, and get rid of those. I'll use that for something else, not a problem. So then we just come in and, oh, bless you, Glory, and just secure that little bit of wire at the back. So there is our little fleur-de-lis earring starting. Now what I do now is I just sort of fiddle around, faff about with these little motifs here, make sure that everything is nice and in place. If you're happy, Just give these side bits a little tap. Wait a minute. Better bring in my little pad here because it's very noisy. Just give them a tap. And then the other side. Let's have a look at how that looks. And then just use your fingers to mold things into place. Isn't that pretty? There we go. So you can do that 2 times for your earrings. And let's have a look. So let's pop a little pearl on like we have with these other ones. I think I've used, did I use 0.6, 0.5, 0.4? You can use whatever you like, actually. Let's have a look. I'm going to use 0.6, I think. Let's just check. No, I don't know what that was actually, probably 0.5. 0.5 millimeter. Doesn't matter, you can use whatever you want. So, I don't know, just a little snip. Snip. Got so many wires on my desk. So let's make a little knotted end to it, shall we? So bring in my pliers, excuse me, just wind around, make it a little spiral, like so. And then we feed the spiral, feed the wire through the spiral, because I can't see what I'm doing. It's making it difficult. There we go. All right, so let me find my nylon jaw. You can do whatever dangles you like on the bottom of these. I think pearls are very, very pretty, and obviously they used them a lot in the Elizabethan times to adorn their clothing and their jewellery, didn't they? So just pull that down, and that's your little knotted pin there, and pop it on. I give it a bit of a squeeze on the desk just to squeeze that down. That's beautiful. And then we make a small wire wrap loop, like so, and then round, like so, and then just pop that, get your component, make sure everything's nice and straight and secure, get your little fleur-de-lis, and then pop your little dangle on, hold it about here, and then I just wrap arbitrarily, bit scrappy, and then back up the top like so, and then just chop, 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 and then as always, like we always do, just squish slightly just to secure that down a little bit. And then all you need now is your ear wires. How cute is that? Let me find an ear wire. Come on, ear wires. Where are you? I do have ear wires already made, but I'm just going to rob this from another pair of earrings. So, straighten things up. If you need to, pop that on your ear wire like so. And there we are. There's our fleur-de-lis earrings. Beautiful, aren't they? I absolutely love these. So as you can see, I made these two at the same time, and they're mirror images of each other. Sorry, should I say they're, exact images of each other. That one's just ever so slightly different because I've made these two at the same time. So, each pair is going to be ever so slightly different to the one before it. And I really like that. Everything's individual, isn't it? So they're not like cookie cutter, and, they've not come off a production line or anything like that. So enjoy making those, and I really hope that you enjoyed my little jaunt around Samlesbury Hall, and I know there's a lot of you guys, particularly in the US, who like to see some historic places that we've got over here, and I hope you enjoyed it. All right, so I will see you in my next video. Let me know in the comments how you get on making these. Bye guys.